Hello everybody, today I make a special episode. It's not about the programming language, but it's about the most recent project I've done. It's called Basic OS and it's the first complete operating system in Scratch. I don't say it's the first operating system wrote in Scratch, but it's the first complete. And what I mean by complete is that it contains a lot of elements, apps that an operating system can have. So make sure to read all of the instructions. They contain all the updates done on the project, and some are here as well. You see project status is finished. Anyways, let me present you a preview of the project. So I have it's not like a text editor because it took me 4 days to make it, and so I didn't add mouse controls because I didn't know it was possible. But you see this cursor right here. You use arrow keys to move it around. So I can move it up. I can also move it down. So I press enter and there's a new line. To press delete, you can press period key. It's like near the 1, 2, 3 key. So press it because backspace doesn't work in Scratch, and you see I just deleted R. I can delete like the whole sentence here just to show you. I can also move left and right with the cursor. So let me type list, and so you see these are all the commands I made. So we have clear. If you type clear, the screen deletes itself. If you type debug, it will show all the variables. If you type info, it will show some information. If you type list, it will show this list, like all these items. If you type cfdisk, it will open an interface to partition the disk. It's a simulation, more like a virtual machine. ls to display all files in current path. Like I took some commands from Linux, also cd change directory, and also use dot to return, mkf argument 1 and argument 2. You make a file, like argument 1 is the name of the file and argument 2 is the type of the file, which can be dir or tx. tx meaning text. And display, used for displaying system variables, or if you type display space text and after some text it will display that text. And type nano dash help for some other commands. Anyways, because it's so much text, it takes a while to load. I just hit clear, and so let me test some of the commands. Info, it will show there's a bug with the cursor, it's like hidden. I can type debug and it will show these variables. So what these variables do, it's the current line. We are 8, now we are gonna be 9. Let me clear this whole mess. So you see we are in current line 2 because that's 1. Here's this 2. The length of the current line is 0. The index line variable is equal to 1. That means that our cursor is on the character number 1, even though we don't have any length. We have temp text, it's like the whole text of a line, but including the cursor. and the text is the whole text, the whole line, but without the cursor. So if you type here something like hello YouTube, if we move the cursor like left a bit, you'll see it transforms the place of that character, the character index line 10. So we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and the length is 13. So it replaces the common character but not the whole text. It doesn't replace, it has a separate text for the cursor, because if we like return to another, the letter is still there because of the text. But if we had only one variable with the cursor, if you place the cursor here, the letter like T, the letter T, would disappear if we move away. That's about it. I'm gonna list again everything. Let me do debug again to hide these variables because we don't actually need them. And let's see, if you actually read the whole instruction thingy, you would see we have two system variables. One is size and one is path. That wasn't supposed to happen. So if you saw like 5 seconds ago, I typed size and another argument. So that's how you take a value. The value is the argument that comes after size, and it will store as a value inside of size. So we can type 64 for example, and it will say size was set to 64 gigs. Because it's a virtual machine, it doesn't actually have size. But let's say we type path, because that's another variable I said, and let's say something like this. It won't do anything because it's not like size, it's a read-only variable. For now we can use display command for like display size, and it will display 64, or display path, that's root. Now, so if we check list again, we can see display all the files in current path, just like the file explorer. But if we use ls in here, let's see what happens, because if you remember, we are in root path, that's the main path. You cannot return, there's nowhere to return because it's the first path, root. So let's type ls, and there are no partitions yet. What a surprise. So we type clear again, and we go back to the list and try to see how to partition the disk. It's right here, cf disk. So we type cf disk. What's here? Disk scratch, size 64 gigs, partition, size, and free space 64. And here is a little menu. So you can cycle through this menu using arrow keys and enter. You can try delete, but it will say you can delete empty space. You can try resize, but you can resize your definite size. You can enter the quit, and it will return you back to the console, but we don't actually want that. Write doesn't actually work because it should have been something, but it didn't work for some reason. So I decided to remove it. It's like just a visual that's standing there, but it doesn't do anything. It's even ignored by arrow keys. So we do this enter, and we type a partition. I like to call my first partition user. and I'll set the size to, let's say, 32 gigs. So after every change to the partitions, it will launch us back to the console, because if we stayed in there, for some reason, instead of the free space, some random keys, some random letters will pop up, and we'll never know. And now if you do resize, we can resize partition number 1 for 16 gigs, and now it's 16 gigs. We can also delete it, number 1, and so if you type it again, there's like at the start, free space. So we type again user, and I will use all the space. If you type it again, you'll see we have the partition user, and the size 64 all allocated for it, and free space at 0 gigs. We can now quit, and we try to do ls, and now as you see we have done the partitions. At least one partition is required, and it will display files user.part. So in this root path, we aren't allowed to create files. We can create files if we want, but in the root path, every time you change it back to root, all the files created beside the partitions will delete automatically, so you lose all the data. Anyways, so we can now change the directory to user.part. So now if we display the path, it's now root/user. Okay, now the files currently are none. There are no files. We will clear this because it's already getting laggy, and let's check the commands to know how to make a file. Okay, so mkf argument 1, argument 2. The first argument is the name, and the second argument is the type. So I'm gonna make a file with the name abc, and the type is gonna be dir. Dir is the short for the folder. So now we clear because we don't want errors, and we go with ls. Now it's showing up here. You can change the directory to it, and now we can display the path. It's root/user/abc. We can also go back. So firstly, there are no files inside abc, of course there aren't. We can go back to the last path using this command, and now if we go with ls, it will display abc.dir. Clear again, and right now we are in user, I believe. So let me see, I'm in root/user. So the last command I'm gonna show you, it's nano --help. So this is a program that comes with operating systems, doesn't matter, Windows or Linux. Alright, I can finally see my cursor, I have to fix it. So GNU Nano version 2.7.5, and they cooperate everything. So now we read the usage. So we use it like this: nano file.tx, or just nano. Nano is a text editor built in command prompt and other built in your operating system, and this Nano is a simplified version to that. Instead of having 8 options, it only has 1 or 2. So let me see, right here. So I'm gonna type Nano, simply Nano, and now we are in another interface. So let's type something. Hello YouTube. Before you save anything, you get to enter. And firstly, you save. I don't think that's working, but you firstly exit and you name it like YT, why not? And now if we list all the files, it appears to be there. If we go back to cd point and go back to user that part, because we should be in root path. Now we change the path successfully. If you ls again, it's still there. So let me try going with yt.tx. Press some key and everything is saved. Alright, so these were all the commands. Now it's time to see the inside. It's a very laggy, it's not just the video. About the file explorer, I'll go over it some bit later, but if you see this like sprite, it's only one sprite here and it's a text engine. So what you have to do first to do one of these programs, you make a costume using a letter for each costume and name it the letter, and also center all the costumes and maybe add all symbols you may want or need. I added it here: semicolon, slash, asterisk, dot, smaller, bigger, equal, line, like minus line, the copyright sign, you saw it right here, the, I don't know, apostrophe, and the cursor, you see it right here. So to explain more about a text engine, let's create a new one. So firstly you erase everything, you do it like this, and let's make the stage whole black. Let's recreate the whole project. Make it here the text white, and let me do the A letter, and then make another B. They have to be all caps. C, D, E. I like to do it this way. Firstly, draw all the costumes and then center. Make sure all of them are centered. After that, name all of them. That's just to make them faster. M N O P Q R S. They don't matter which order they are, but all they matter to be named after their lowercase variant. I will make a very easy text engine. You can modify all the parts you want. And now let me do this. I'm gonna select this mouse to make it easier to centrate. That this step is just time consuming. Some other people do it with custom fonts, and that's more time consuming. I'm doing it with a scratch font, sans serif, that will be. O and M L J. You can make them any size you want, but I just like to make them small. This is H, G, F, E, D, C. This is centered, this is centered, and also this is centered because it was the first costume. So we'll add pen here, we'll use stamp and erase all. So we do stamp here, stamp here, and that's how we are gonna do everything. Stamp and erase all, of course. So I'm gonna set the X of every line to be minus 227. So I'm gonna make a new variable called line X and I'm gonna set the line X to be minus 227, and the Y variant will be some harder to do if you want multiple lines, but for only one line we will set it to what we have right now, 165. That's what I used for basic OS. And a green flag. We will make a new block, so we'll call it render text, so the actual text we will render on the screen at x and y. So we'll actually hide. We'll make a new variable I and a new variable text. I believe what I will do is set text to, I don't know, hello. Everything must be lowercase, so it will match with all these costumes. And inside of here it will be all these variables set here. First things first, I would do this and also go to x and y. So for now we're gonna do this, and let me see why it didn't work. Oh, alright, that was because it was going to 0, 0. I'll actually use this renderer, so hello -2 to 7 and 165. We'll set I to 1. Firstly repeat the length of the text. I'm gonna do a new variable called letter. Set letter to letter I of text. And now we are gonna do an if. So let's say we have a space between these. How are we gonna do this space? What I did is measure all the letters, and so like most of them I have 9 width, and what I will do is if letter is equal to space, delete all and press space once, it will change x by 11.5. That's what I did. And if it will not be, if the letter will be a letter from the alphabet, it will firstly switch the costume to letter, then it will stamp, and after that it will change x by 10. And after all of these it will hide. So let's do just a basic hello. Let me see why it didn't work. So we forgot to add change I by 1. It will not change the letter, and now as you see everything is hello, and our actually letter is right here. After every change we need to erase everything and restamp all the letters in place. Let's say we have hello YouTube. Let's see what happened. So there's another U here called U2. Here is, this is called Y, and this is called U. So right now it should work, and you see it did work just fine. You can modify these values however you'd want. You can place the here like 15 and 14. It will look something like this. But this is a very basic. We can make a when a key is pressed, we can set text to join text with A, and then render the text at line X and line Y, and we set here hello YouTube. Let's say we press A, now it appears here, here and here and or here. But let's say we don't want this animation anymore, so we, after all the erasures, it does take some time for it to load. And let's say you make a better text editor than mine, that's only current line. You make more lines, and after every change it will take a long time till it reaches the last change. So what we do here is edit and add run without screen reset. And now if we do this, it always does this, and you can press A and it almost looks like it doesn't load anytime. That's what I used on my project. Anyways, so that's a very basic text editor, text engine more like. And now I'm gonna look on the other project I did called File Explorer. So this File Explorer is an idea I got in 2023 to make in Scratch. This is the first File Explorer actually on Scratch, the first ever published and the first ever created. There are no tutorials, no nothing. There's a little bit of instructions here. So firstly, let me tell you how it works. So another text engine here. Say we are in path root, and we create a file. We firstly define the type. We make a folder dir, and we name it user. We can make another directory called home. Now let's say we want to move inside of user.dir. So we navigate to 1. Now you see the path has gone to root/user. If we create here, let's say a text music, and another directory called I pressed on navigate, directory called ABC. Now we can also navigate into, we can try navigating into 1, but it won't work because it's not a directory. We can navigate into 2 and it will change this path. We can return, and we can return to the first one. This is the whole preview. It took me a little bit to make it. It's not as laggy as before, and it doesn't use a block. because it's very simple. It's the same example I used there, but it doesn't have space. And this is only for root. Right now, if you press on return, if you looked very closely to the other project, it's the same code. So I reused the code from here to basic OS. If you press return, it will try to find all the paths that are before here. So let's have an example. We navigate into user.dir. So first things first, when we tap on return, it will firstly remove all the letters until it reaches slash, and then remove add all the letters to a temporary variable except the slash. After all of that, replace the path with the temporary variable, and so you successfully reached the last path you are in. That's all this script does. So first thing first, it repeats until it's slash, so it will add to temporary variable all these letters, even the slash, but not all after it. And after that, it will add all the letters besides the slash, and it will set the path to everything, and it will load all the directories, all the files in the new path. Alright, so the create is the simplest of all. It just asks you for a type and name, and it will add you to all these lists. So you may recognize this list called File Explorer, and it will add a file name, that file type. But these three lists, you don't recognize them. So let me make a brief explanation of how to use this. And types. So these are what I call tables in Scratch. So when you open Excel, you have to define like a top row, a second row, and that's a table. What I have here is like a table in Excel. So you see the top row is files, paths, and types. The second row is user, root, and type dir. The second row is home, root, type dir. The third row is music, root slash user, and text. And everything is stored like this. So let's say we change our path to root slash user. What the program does, it will exchange all the paths from this folder to count only those that are the new path. So what it will do, it will add every path that's not like, let me see what it does. It will add every path item firstly to this list, 10 paths, and then it will delete all of File Explorer, like all of 10 paths of this. So it will firstly delete so it will set this as a target path, and if the target path matches with the path of a file, if a file does exist in that target path, it will add it to the File Explorer, that's the type of it. So it will find a path that matches with the target path. In this case, root slash user matches with this, and it will take the index that's free. So in all it will take all the other arguments in line 3. So line 3 files, it will be music, and types in line 3 it will be text. So music.text is a file located in the target path, and it will add music.text to file explorer. After that, it will check the next item. Let's say it wouldn't be root slash user, it would be something else. Then it will not add it to file explorer and pass over it. And that's like all of it. All that is to happen in this project. It wasn't that hard, I have to say. It was actually easier than what I created in 2023. If I go down here, it says file directory in Scratch. You see 2023 right there. It does include a tutorial, but it looks very disorganized, and it was a very worked on project, and it looks very hard. I don't even know right now what I did here, but hopefully I don't continue this anymore, but I won't delete it. I didn't work anymore on 30 language. I will work maybe some time in the future, but not now. I try to do a hash technique, the MD5 technique with ChatGPT's help, but it didn't work. It was very hard. Like, I used this script just to make a uppercase, because Scratch isn't working with uppercases. It doesn't work at all with uppercases. So I made this using some Scratch bugs. So right now, if we do this, let me see, result is true. If we do smaller e, it will say it's false. Just says if it does contain. And all of this was generated by ChatGPT. It wasn't generated by ChatGPT. So what I actually did here, ChatGPT generated a Python code that I manually done in Scratch, and the result isn't very likely, isn't very good, like, at all. I had to remake some Python functions from zero to add them in Scratch, like you see left right shifting operators, or decimal to hexadecimal, or bitwise or and bitwise and. All of these three things were for the MD5 hash device. I haven't returned to Scratch in a long time, but this basic OS, you have to say, is very epic. So everyone, this was the video. Hope you enjoyed it. It was more like a showcase video, but including some tutorials on how to make a simple text engine in Scratch, and also how to make a file explorer also in Scratch. more of a showcase of what I did in all this break from scratch videos, and I promise you I will try to make again and try to continue this series with the programming language. If or maybe I was thinking that I did some mistakes with the series. So if you know the series, it does have a compiler. It uses a compiler. So but it's more like a interpreter. It runs every line after the other, and it's not a compiler, it's an interpreter. I may want to continue it, and after I do if statements and maybe loops, I will try to make another new language, but instead of a compiler, use a real compiler with tokens. And I'm motivated by this because I in this basic operating system I actually used one token based compiler to check the commands for arguments and everything, and it just blew my mind using it. So anyways, that was the video. Bye guys, have a nice day.